Hi guys, welcome with Hones with Jones. I'm joined with David Mullins. David Mullins is a sports psychologist and he's worked with MMA fighters, boxers, all throughout the levels, many world champions on his resume. David, how are you doing?
Good, Nathan. Good to see you. All good here.
Good stuff. How's that intro? Is that all right for you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah? All
Made
right.
me sound better than I am, but I like that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, sports psychologist, what is that, and what does that mean?
That's a good question because a lot of people think they know what it is and they actually don't because sadly there's a lot of spoofers in the area. Because it's easy to call yourself a mental coach or that kind of thing, and people don't have the actual qualifications or experience to do that. So, I mean, my job with working with athletes, like you said there, it's predominantly I've been working with fighters over the years, but athletes in lots of different sports. My job, as I see it, is to help them improve their performance to get their best possible performance when it counts most. So in competition, but it's not just that. It's also how they're day to day living their lives, getting the best out of their training, their sleep, their nutrition, and how they can mentally cope with all the different challenges can be going on outside of competition, outside of sport, just in daily lives with relationships or pressures outside. With some guys are working part time as well, or they're in relationships, and there's all different stress that can be there. So helping to manage that stuff. And I would say I've also had to work a lot with fighters who are coming towards the end of their careers and they're looking to transition into the next phase of their lives. So switching careers into something else, finishing up their being an athlete. So that's a big part of it as well. Just so that they're prepared and ready for being excited about the next phase. Because I've had a few athletes who have had a great run and they've retired now and they've moved on, but I've had others who had to stop early because of injuries and things like that. So it was like a shock to the system, and so we had to deal with the shock and then had to deal with planning for what's next, and just mentally kind of coping with that, and then looking forward to what comes next, and getting excited about that. The key is to be excited about what you're doing, because then you don't even need to be motivated. It's not about that. It's just about getting to do what it is you want to do.
For sure, for sure. I mean, like, we've done sessions in the past, because I'm about to say, you've worked with some really famous athletes, Nathan Jones
Yeah.
being one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, and what you're saying is true, and it just brought back all the times when we did these sessions, and you're right. I look back to my life, which is completely different now than it was then, and
Hmm.
I still have all those stresses, but they were, in different layers and complexities, and you're right. You got me to see clear through that keyhole as such. Do you know what I mean? And you you're very subtle in how you do it. And I wondered if you could give us just a little insight in terms of what you do, because obviously the skill is to make it look easy. And when I was working with you, I didn't feel like you were doing anything at the time, but
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
after the fight, it was like, actually, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it was different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the key is there's no magic to it. There's no trick. Because that's when I was saying about spoofers. There's a lot of spoofers out there in this realm of mental coaching, sports psychology, and the likes with athletes that'll try to sell them something that's the missing ingredient or the one thing that's going to make all the difference. And there is no such thing as that. Um, it's far from that. I would say let's say a fighter, like when you were getting ready for fights on Bama or something back when we were working together, or any fighter really getting ready for a fight. Let's say the fight's announced, so they know the opponent and they know the date, and it's 8 weeks away or whatever it is. Um, what I like to do first is to tell the story of the fight together with the fighter. We talk it through. We run through all the things that are unique about this fight, because every fight has its own unique story behind it. That can be the opponent and what he means to you, his record, his team, and where he's competed before, or all that kind of stuff. So there'll be some kind of perception of the opponent, and he means something to you. We talk that through, and we get that out. The venue where it is, maybe it's a hometown fight, maybe it's fighting away from home, maybe it's a trip abroad, or whatever it is. That's part of the story. Mm-hmm. The promotion that it's with is part of the story. Whether it's for a belt could be part of the story, or whether it could be, if you win this, maybe you're in line for a title shot next, or if you win this, maybe the UFC is looking and they've been, they might be knocking on the door. So if you win this one, it keeps you on track to get signed. Or maybe you're undefeated so far, and that's part of the story. Or maybe you've just lost your last fight, and that's part of the story. So there's other stuff as well, injuries in the build-up, and the weight cut. Maybe you're more out of shape than you were in previous fights coming in, or maybe you're worried about the weight. Maybe it's a new weight class, and I could go on and on. There's lots of things, but I think it's important to lay out the story
for sure
at the start, so you can tell the story before the fight, what it means to you, what all these things are. Get them out. Let's talk about them. Let's discuss them. Let's see them for what they are, and then be clear on what each of these things mean, so that we can get down to the real thing that matters is, what are you asking yourself to actually do here on that night? And then hone in on that, which is performance. It's about performance. It's about what you're going to do on the night. So you're not really asking yourself to go beat some guy on some night and impress some people that might be watching, or shut up the haters that might be watching, or any of that stuff. It's not about that. It's you go and deliver your best possible performance. So in the build-up, you're preparing as well as you can, and on the night, you're clear and free to go in and perform as best as you can.
For sure.
And that's what it's about. And then there's lots of different stuff that can come up that we walk on the way through. And there's stuff we'll work on, like visualization, to visualize the fight before it happens and all that kind of stuff. But really, it's being clear on what you're asking yourself to do. That's how I see it as the most important thing.
For sure. I mean, just listening to you there, I was getting like little tingles, like seriously, sure, just reminiscing. I was like, yeah, I remember speaking about this, and I know this feeling, and and even to this day, I still have like the mantra that we discussed, that we go over. I still say it to myself, and it gets me switched on and focused, and it's good. And I like what you're saying about being clear, and another thing that you talk about is being confident. And you've got, in anything that you do, you've got to be clear and you've got to be confident, right?
You got to be confident, but you can't just be confident. You have to put the work in to earn the confidence. So, like, again, if you're heading into a fight, it's not just enough to be confident and then show up on the night. And if you haven't trained, you're gonna get destroyed. It's a false confidence. The confidence should be based on work and the effort you've put in, and the amount of real hard work you've put in over the weeks and months in the build up. And then if you, on the week of the fight, where it tends to be a taper down week in terms of there's not so much training that on that fight week. It's just about making weight, and the work is already kind of done. But in that week, the last week of the fight, there's media obligations and there's all that stuff to do. But there's a lot of alone time. There's a lot of time to think. And if you've not put the work in, you haven't put the work in.
Sure.
But it's a great feeling to have put the work in the build-up and be able to stand over that work and trust yourself. And that's where that confidence comes from. So the confidence has to be built on solid foundations of work. And then, so that's what I talk about, earning your confidence, earning to trust yourself.
For sure. No, that's an important point. And I suppose that's like in anything, really. You know what I mean? I always have all these analogies, and one that comes to my mind right now is like, like a relationship. If you're cheating on it, it's not going to work, or you take shortcuts and you're going to get found out. in your training, you know, and
Yeah.
I think that's right. And I know you don't just work with boxers or MMA fighters. You've worked with people in other sports and in other domains as well, not just in sport as well. You know, and
Yeah.
is it the same in terms of earning that confidence?
Yeah, I think there's certain things that are across, like you said, I've worked with fighters, but I've worked with lots of footballers as well, youth footballers at different clubs, and basketball players, baseball players, but even people outside of sports, people in that like actors and people that do performances and stuff like that. It were um, even though it's different, it's more similar than it's different. And there's things that are kind of true regardless of what it is you're asking yourself, what it is you're doing. So, like I mentioned already, that being clear on what you're asking yourself to do on that night, on that performance time, that's a big one that stands no matter what it is you're doing. If you're just giving a presentation in work, you want to be clear on what it is you're doing. You want to be trying to impress people or hoping you get hoping this pitch goes over and you get the deal or whatever. It's not about that. It's about going in and giving your best performance, giving your best possible. So that stands up regardless of what it is. And the earning your confidence stands up regardless of what it is. That's still true. There's things like and you'll remember this now as well, is controlling the controllables, being aware of what your controllables are, because some things are inside your control, some things are completely outside of your control. So it's good to know what those things are so that you can put your time and effort into the things that you do actually control, and you can just accept the non-controllable stuff as, you know, it exists, it's there, and it, as much as you can want it to go a certain way, you have no control over it by definition. So there's no point in thinking about it, wasting your energy. You're just getting yourself stressed for no reason.
For sure. I mean, and keeping this conversation topical, I mean, like with this pandemic and everything, it's like that's a big, hey, we can't control this, but we can control our response from this, and
Exactly
what things, you know, focus your time and energy into what you can control and the decisions that you make around it, you know. I think that's a big one, and I think knowing what I've known or experienced what I've experienced in the past, by overcoming adversity and you know, from losing a fight or reconnecting with my love of the sport, you know, it is focusing on what I can control and what I can't control, you know. So that's a big one. So are there any other like common themes that people or why people would seek a sports psychologist or a psychologist in general for performance? Sorry.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, a lot of the time, people are coming to me that have heard of my work from another fighter. So whether that's a teammate of theirs, that was the way it was in our gym back in the day. The kind of word spread a little bit that you know, he's working with this guy, and then the guys talk amongst themselves, and it spreads from there. And then there's fighters from other camps that it spreads like that. But fighters are sometimes coming to me. A lot of the time they're coming because of a loss that they've just had, as in they lost their last fight and they want to change things up, which is fine, because that's like a loss almost forces you to reevaluate things. What I love is people who are coming to me off the back of what people would see as a good performance and a win or whatever, but they know there's more there and they feel like they can get more out of themselves. Because I always say, regardless of the result, you should be reevaluating the performance and the preparation and everything, and seeing what the lessons are you can take from it. So if regardless if you won and everyone is impressed, there's definitely things you could have done better in the build up. There's definitely things you could have done better on fight night. And if you're looking to improve constantly and you have that mindset of wanting to improve, then that's how you kind of stay ahead of the game and keep yourself going. Because too often people fall into the trap of just getting a fight, getting ready for that fight, making weight, doing the fight, winning, and then kind of sitting around, and then they get another fight, and then they get back in shape, they get ready, they make weight, and the improvement kind of falls off. The kind of being a student disappears. So I love when guys come to me that are, it's not obvious why they're coming to me, as in that it's not just like, I lost my last fight, I need to figure things out. I love when they come to me with, I want to improve, I want to get better, and I feel like this is an area where it can bring me to the next level or whatever. So that's
sure. Now, is that down to the individual? Is it down to somebody, their coach or someone that they trust telling them to seek help? Or
yeah, it varies. It varies. I mean, sometimes it's the coach who reaches out and says, would you be interested in working with this guy? And sometimes that works, but it definitely works more often when it's the guy himself who's coming to me, or the guy or the girl who's coming to me directly, because they've looked into it themselves. And sometimes guys are just, they heard it might be a good thing to do. They don't really know what it is. And once we start doing the work, they're surprised at how practical it is. And how there's like, it's not, there's not some magic trick thing or whatever. Because I've definitely had guys like that who come looking for a magic trick. And when I lay it out what we're going to be actually doing, they get turned off because they thought they were going to have this simple little switch that they were going to flick, and now everything is going to work.
If only.
They're looking for a shortcut. Yeah, they're looking for a shortcut. When they realize it's not that, and it's just, it's hard work. It may be hard work done in a more efficient way or in a better way, then it's better early that those guys get turned off, because they're going to waste their time if
for sure. And I think one of the reasons why I was able to connect with you was because we were training together, and you could see the hard work that I was putting in. Do you know what I mean? And just that, having your vote of confidence in me in terms of what in terms of interpreting what I was saying, made me feel good. Do you still train? Are you still training? Rolling?
Yeah, well, pre-pandemic, yeah. I mean, I haven't rolled in well over a year now.
No, for sure.
2020, which absolutely is I miss it more than I miss going to the pub or going to restaurants and stuff. Like I cannot, like, that's the thing that I cannot wait to open back up.
Right. Telling me.
Training. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I think I don't even know how many people are in the same kind of situation. So, wearing your hat now, what advice would you give all those people that have hit a speed bump with an uncontrollable? Probably 50-50 with their motivation, or they want to do it, but I don't know. What advice could you give them?
Yeah, I mean, it's the advice I'm trying to follow myself, so I don't want to be a hypocrite with it. And when the gyms do open up again, and I can go roll, I want to hit the ground running. You know what I mean? I want to be in shape to do so many rounds in that first session. I can't wait to do it, but to make that happen, I have to be eating right and sleeping right, and trying to get the training in. It's not the same training I can do, but like, you've shown yourself what can be done at home without virtually any equipment, that you can get a good workout in. So if you can find something that you enjoy doing, you get excited about it, then you can get a workout in for sure, and just keep yourself in shape. That's going to be important, because it can be easy to just fall into the trap of, well, I can't train like I used to, so I'm just, I'm not going to do anything. And then the diet falls out the window, and the sleep pattern falls out the window, and before you know it, so much has fallen off.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, it really is. So if you can try, and And it is not easy for sure. It's way easier to stay on track when you've got all the facilities open and you've got like able to train like normal. But as much as you can, you have to live in the reality that you're in now. And the controllable that we have in this time is still how we sleep, eat, train. That is still controllable.
For sure. Okay, cool. So I like that, and that kind of reaffirms my own thing, because when I'm telling this to people, it's like, you know what, I've got to practice what I preach. So no, you're right. I've got to do it myself now. So there are no excuses, guys. If you're listening. So David, what is your golden bit of advice that you give, regardless of who they are, why they come to see you, what they do? What is your one bit of advice that you find yourself always using?
I mean, that's a tough one, because everyone is a bit of an individual, so it depends. But there's like the controllables.
Give me two then.
Yes, I'd say control the controllables is, even though we've mentioned already, it is a big thing. If you could start seeing your life in terms of things that are controllable and things that are not, and if you just realize how much of your time you spend focused and concentrated and worrying and stressing about things that are completely outside of your control, and if you just look at that, take a step back and look at that for a second, what are you doing there? You're just literally wasting your time and getting stressed out because there's nothing you can do about it. By definition, it's outside of your control. So as much as you want the weather to be nice tomorrow, thinking and hoping and wishing about it it's wasting your time, and then being upset about it when it's not nice, it's makes no sense. And same with that, like the weather is the easiest example, but there's so many other things around, people's reactions and what other people are saying and they're doing, or people in work that might be, stressing you out. You don't really have much say over what they're doing. So focus on what you can control. It's way more fun to do that, and just let the other stuff exist. That's one thing for sure. And then I guess the other thing is, you don't have to be positive all the time. This is not about being positive. You don't have to be positive all the time. It's not real. That's not the goal of any of my work, is to put a spin on it and make everything look shiny and nice and positive. Some things are not good, and that's the reality of it. But you still have to get on with it. You still have to deal with it. So you can feel down. You can feel upset about something. You can feel angry about things. That's fine. That's okay. But what are you going to do about it now? So you don't just sit in that and stew on it, and things start to spiral from there. So don't feel bad if you're not positive all the time, basically.
No, I like that. And I find myself asking myself that question all the time. But what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, I'm not going to let it. No, all right. This is what I'm going to do. It's always a good question that I use for myself, just to switch me on and tune me in. So that's very valuable there, David. No, thank you. Before we sign off, where can people find you?
In my house now for the last year, but I'm not on much social media anymore. I find that to be one of those non-controllables that I didn't enjoy so much, so I've kind of made it a controllable, and I'm not using it so much. But you can get in touch with mindtrainnow.com. If you want to find out more, you can get me there.
Wicked. Well, on behalf of all the listeners out there, thank you for your time. It's been very insightful. And guys, if you've got any questions, hit me up, or you can get in contact with David on mindtrainnow.com. David, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Nathan.
Good stuff.